Peace, everybody. This month, May 2022, we produced Until Forever, a book featuring photos, bios, ideas, and stories from Charlie the Hustler, Hurt, Bat, Ola, Lady Pink, Chino BYI, Nove York, Mike Giant, Arab GSB, Dr. Dax, Sean Crawford, Peter Sutherland, Ray Capo, Kalal Money, Jess TVT, Andrew Barnes, and KR. The cover of the book features a photo from Nove's personal archives, and the book is available exclusively through our Patreon and comes with limited Crink K71s. We're going to be shipping the book out to our Patreon members, and the book is available only for the month of May. We're going to be using our Patreon funds to run a food and goods drive at Tompkins Square Park. With the help of Arc'teryx's Flatiron store in New York and Snow Peak, we're going to be cooking and handing out hundreds of meals, clothes, and goods to the community of downtown New York, as well as doing a park cleanup at Tompkins Square Park, picking up trash all around the park. We have new Patreon-only episodes out with Sabe KST and Diego127. We have a lower-tier membership that gives you access to our entire members-only episode library, featuring interviews from Dessa MTA, Mike IRAK, Sabe KST, Diego127, Cash 4, XSM, Host 18, Wayne COD, Dual Risk, Sake, and less. Members also gain access to AZ Radio, conversations of Z and I speaking on life, mental health, graffiti, books, martial arts, and more. Immense thank you, as always, to everybody who supports the show in any way and helps us run our food drives, help out writers, help out artists, or donate to charities. Feel free to message us if you want to pull up to the food drive. The link to our Patreon is in this episode's description.
Yo, what's up? This is Charlie the Hustler. You tuned in to Angel and Z, and we're here to represent Classy Screens, the highest quality t-shirts you could possibly get. You know what I'm saying? So stay tuned, motherfucker, and watch this next episode. Feel me?
Angel and Z Radio is now getting the support of Art Primo. Art Primo is a graffiti shop that was started by writers for writers in Seattle 2001. And they've stayed true to their roots for over 20 years, offering everything from ink, paint, refillable mops, zines, books, and more. Their videos from over 9 years ago were really ahead of their time. I would watch the videos they'd upload around 2010, and at the time there was really nothing like them. They dropped videos with writers like Arab, Lunch, Gusto, and MQ, which influenced writers all over the globe. These videos were edited and dropped in a way that was unique to Art Primo's style. We have infinite gratitude to be getting their support. The Art Primo crew strives to always keep prices low and quality high. They hand pour all their mops and inks in their Seattle warehouse, ship orders on the same day, and their site is really a source of information for all types of writing tools. They approach their product demos with the DIY style that is so embedded in graffiti culture, providing information on how to make caps fit on different valve systems whenever the spray paint brands switch their valves, videos on making ink from methyl violet and purple primer, as well as featuring products they carry unique to Art Primo, like spray paint that can be used in the pouring rain, their custom-made caps that can turn regular cans into ultra-wides, or their solid silver paint markers. A lot of these products you cannot buy anywhere else because Art Primo makes them themselves. We cannot express our gratitude enough and are proud to be getting Art Primo's support. Link to all their stuff will be in this episode's description. Yeah, dude, thank you once again so much for coming on the show. It's a big honor for us, and you know the stuff that you've been doing with your pretty much your platform and what you've been using it for is it really resonates with us, and some of the stuff that we've been up to, and particularly the people who listen to our show like take so much appreciation from that. It's a lot of people that are like undergoing a bunch of stuff. So how has your recent life been like with essentially like all this new stuff?
Man, let's see, I'd say over the past maybe 4 or 5 years, my life's been just full of new experiences and adventures in a way. I'd even say the past 8 years. So I grew up in Vegas, and I was born in LA, but I grew up in Vegas. And around 2017, I fell in love with this chick, and then she was traveling around the world. So I went to I followed her to Paris, and then from Paris to Belgium, and then from Belgium to Brazil, and then from Brazil I landed up in Thailand. But in the mix of all the other countries, it was just I'm just chasing this girl all around the world. So I got a lot of crazy different experiences, but I settled in Thailand. And once I got there, I was like, it changed my life. Just like the culture, the people, the similarities in cultures as far as like things that I was interested in growing up, like skateboarding and graph and just streetwear. Like I was just like, oh, there's all this stuff here, but it's in a whole different way. And the people were just amazing. So going from living in that lifestyle to then living in New York City, it was just like, that was also life-changing for me too, because New York City was a place that I dreamed of as a kid and like respected because of just like the origins of like hip hop and like I said, the same things, hip hop, graph, hardcore, skateboarding. I was just like, wow, I'm really here. So like that mixed with fighting, it just like the past few years has just been like all of these things that I used to dream about as a kid are now like I'm living in that like realm, in that world that I never really thought was possible. So it's like overwhelming in a way, but like in the best way possible. You know what I mean? Like I'm looking back at the teenager and I'm like we did that. You know what I mean? We're doing it now. So yeah,
I was listening to one of your other podcasts and just like talking about how simple the lifestyle is in Thailand, and it's good for training. You can just walk to the gym or short motorbike ride, and it's just easy. And then I was thinking like, well, wow, like he lived there, now he's living here, total opposite. And then just seeing how your life is now, just moving from place to place, always staying busy, always like sharing your story, working on a bunch of different projects. Does it like trip you out, the differences in lifestyles that you've lived?
Like between Thailand and here, or just like
in general, but also, but I was thinking like the countryside of Thailand, walking to the gym, an outdoor gym, like stadium Muay Thai versus, New York City. I saw you at Marcelo Garcia's yesterday. Yeah. It's like totally different.
It's totally different. I think what it is like I just fell in love with like Thai people, because no matter what their job was, or if they're like, selling clothes on the market or like selling coffee on the street or whatever, like everybody was just so happy. You know what I mean? Like, and they just always showed love and they were always smiling. That's why it's called the land of smiles, right? Like that's what they're known as. And like they live it and it's authentic and it's genuine. And then like, obviously like New York City's kind of hectic. You're driving, people like, fuck you. There's like trash cans and stuff. So like, it's cool for me because I'm observing more than I'm like meshing with New York. I just like, I go outside, I like have my coffee and I walk down the street and I'm just like looking at crazy shit, like, so I'm more observing. But in Thailand, I was more like active with the people, like learning the language, like embracing the culture. So it's very, very, very different. But also like I lived in Bangkok too. So like when I was in lockdown in Phuket, it was peaceful. Like that was kind of like the more like bliss part of Thailand. But Bangkok was very similar to New York, like if not busier in a way. Very fast paced, but also it was like the people who made it so cool. So it was a culture shock when I first got back, because like just Americans we're such a different type of such a different type of human. It's crazy. And then like just lifestyles in general, I feel like since I was a kid, I've always just tried to live as many lifestyles as possible, which is like when I was younger, like I liked music, so I played music, but then like I'd try to find myself in multiple genres. And then like in high school, I was like, I'd hang out with like the gothic kids. And then one day there's like a guy, he's like writing in this book, in a black book. And I was like, yo, can I see that? And he like passed it to me low. He's like, but keep it down, so I'm like looking at it under the table and I'm like, yo, this is sick, like, and obviously like I was born in LA too. So like I'd always seen graph and stuff, but that was my first time really seeing like a black book, because I was seeing it from like the car on the highways and stuff like that, but then like in high school when I saw that, I was like, yo, and then that was kind of like my introduction to like a deeper life of like graffiti. And then like hanging out with the skateboarders and seeing how they all like kind of click together, and I was like, okay, this is the lifestyle I want to live, because I don't want to play sports and I don't want to do this stuff, so I'm going to hang with them because there's more interest there. And then it went from there to like my friends who were also into like hardcore music. So I'm like, okay, how do I fit into like all of these? Because I like everything. So like, yeah, I think just living different lifestyles and just trying to kind of find myself in all of them is just kind of how I always operated. You know.
How old were you when you saw that black book, or when you were getting into, you know, hardcore punk scene or any of that stuff, skating?
I'd say like I got into skating I got into rollerblading at like 8. And then I used to rollerblade a long way, like maybe like 10 miles every morning to school, in elementary school. My mom would be like, yeah, sure. So I started rollerblading. And then I remember the school that I rollerbladed to, one of the kids in school, his brother was like a BMX rider and he skateboarded. But then like his backpack, he had like a NoFX patch and like an Anarchy patch. And like he had all these like punk rock patches, you know? And then like in my eyes, he was like one of the coolest kids in my class. And he's like, nah, you got to skateboard. And like, blading's fucking whack. You know what I mean? And I'm like, all right, mom, I need a skateboard, you know? So then like I started learning how to skateboard with him and his friends. And then like they all listened to like punk and they drank. And I was just like, okay, cool. If this is what skateboarders do, I'm going to do it. Because like I never really fit in or like had my own like group of friends. I was always just like kind of like the token black guy in a way, where it's like, what up? You know, like, you guys are cool, I want to hang out. So yeah, so I started skateboarding, I'd say around like 10 to 13, 14, because then like I was growing and gaining weight, and there just came a point where I was just like breaking boards all the time and just couldn't keep up with the kids who were 14 that were like already getting sponsorships and shit. You know what I mean? Like they kind of surpassed me. Like, you know, they're like, oh, we got to go skate this competition. I'm like, all right, I'm missing out today. You know what I mean? But I would still sometimes like, I would still go hang out and like go to whatever park they were skating at. And I would just do like basic shit just to be able to still be with my friends. You know what I mean? But I knew that I could never really like take skateboarding like seriously or pursue it. So I just kind of kept hanging around them until I found the next group where I was like, how do we connect and how can I pursue this and still fit in? Which is when like, that's where like hardcore came in. Hardcore came in first before graffiti. I met some, and that was in like the transition from like 8th grade to 9th grade. So I met some friends who were in a band, like a metalcore band, and then we were sharing musical influences, and I liked a lot of the hardcore shit that they were listening to. So I started listening to that, and then we started going to shows, and then, I mean, it just like it unravels, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. So then like hardcore phase was early high school days, and then like sophomore, junior year was more like hip hop graffiti days. But I never really left anything behind, and I never really left my friends behind. So like the skateboarders and the gothic kids and the punk rock kids and like everybody I still was like friends with. But I was just always on this like crazy journey, just trying to find new cultures, you know?
You know how like when you were getting into graph, when you were getting into all of this stuff, hardcore, skating, and you started like the first one, which was like, you started when you were like 10 years old getting into it and learning about it, and then it shifted from there. In terms of like your depression and all the stuff that you ended up dealing with, and you know, and you speak on, did that start also around the same age, or what's like the trajectory with that?
I'd say it started pretty early. I think it started around like, I'd say like 11, 12, like 10, 11, 12. Because it's also a time when, like, after because my pops was murdered when I was 2, and we moved to Vegas when I was 5. So, like, my mom she was able to, like, support 4 kids for a minute. But then, like, the economy crashed. And, like, we started just losing things, like, left and right. You know what I mean? Like, she just wasn't able to keep up with a lot of stuff. Which then, like, caused us from we moved from like a 3-4 bedroom house to like a motel in the shittiest part of Las Vegas. You're like a weekly motel. and like all of us, like a family, packed into, you know, a weekly motel for like 3-4 months. And like that was kind of depressing because it was like I had lived this life and my mom did her best to like keep us afloat, but then like when everything started crashing and we lost the house and we moved to this motel and I was only like 10 years old, like I said, it's weekly, so it's like we're saying prostitutes and just like it's Vegas, you know what I mean, like prostitutes and pimps and like, you know what I mean, tweakers and all types of shit. And I'm just like, this is kind of fucked up. Like, is this where I live? You know, 10 years old, you're forming your perception of life, right? Like your environment, you're embracing it all. So that's kind of where I started to kind of feel bad. And then we moved from there to a house on a different side of town. So I was like away from everybody. I had to make new friends again. And then it was also in a place of Vegas that was like way on the outskirts. Like we had our own separate neighborhood, but literally like right across the street was like a trailer park where there was like meth labs and shit, you know? So it was like where we were specifically was like pretty safe, but like you cross the street 5 minutes and it's like a whole new world. You know what I mean? Like Confederate flags and like, you know what I mean? Desert and like trailer homes and you know what I'm saying? So it was like, I just kind of started forming this perception in a way that like my life sucks. And also my friends who skated and all the, like and stuff like that, they also kind of have like, had like a similar perception of life. So we all just collectively agreed that like life is fucked up. You know what I mean? The government sucks. You know what I mean? Like school is fucking stupid. Like let's ditch. Let's, you know what I mean? Let's paint. Let's get fucked up. Let's just, you know, like.
And like when you were 10 years old, skateboarding it's not what it is today. It's nowhere near as popular. Like if you skated in school, you were whack.
In a way, yeah, we were like kind of picked on. So both my brothers were athletes. They played football, basketball, and they were like star athletes. They were pretty boys because we all have separate dads. So like they're light skinned dudes, curly hair, fucking pretty boys. You know what I mean? And I was like chunky black kid, didn't even have facial hair, weird afro. You know what I mean? Like weird clothes because we'd have to share clothes. And then like, yeah, like, fuck, I forgot the question or like the where.
Well, I was just saying that when it was like skating was whack back then.
Yeah, so it was whack. Yeah, I got made fun of from those guys, like from my brother's friends and shit. They're my older brothers. So, like at that time, I'm watching skate videos with my friends after school, and I would go home and I'd get like dental floss and sew my jeans mad tight because I liked how like the Hesh skaters looked and like Ali Balala and like all those guys. And I was like, okay, cool. I'm gonna sew my pants like super tight where it's like hard to get on. And then, like I said, because I liked it, you know, and I felt like this is who I fuck with. So I would get made fun of, you know what I mean? Like even just walking to school or like, it was just like people always just had some shit to say. And I was never confrontational. I was like always like a sensitive guy. Like if the dudes tried to pick on me or bully me, it's like they could do it. I wouldn't do anything. I would just like bottle it up and then go home and deal with it however, whether it was like through music or just like through just like drinking or whatever it was, you know.
How much do you think about those times today?
Not really, like not so much. I think there's just times that like I get triggered. You get what I'm saying? To where I'm like somebody may say something or try to like make a joke or something and it may trigger me, it may not. You get what I'm saying? But like that's kind of the only time. And when I say trigger, I mean like kind of snap me back into like past stuff. It doesn't like not trigger me where I'm like, I'm gonna fuck you up, you know, because I feel like I'm still the same person. But it may have me think about like, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, do you believe in a form of destiny in a way, like to where you're at now through, you know, what you're experiencing is essentially like kind of like a different life, some would say, than to, you know, being a kid at that age, going through that. Do you believe that you had to go through that childhood and all those experiences to kind of get to where you're at now?
I think so. Yeah. And I think like as I get older and as I just start to try to understand life a little bit more and just like how it works, and I don't think that we're all just like living here with no purpose. You know what I mean? Like, I definitely do believe that there's like a heavy like spiritual aspect to life, and especially things of like when I was younger. My mom, she actually told me this story the other day before my fight. She was like, when you were a kid, she was like, you were in the grocery store. We were in the grocery store together, and you wandered off. And then she's like, but you were like talking to like this old lady. And when I went to go get you, the old lady told me like that, like, she's like, oh, he's very smart. Like, he's going to be special. He's going to be a king, you know? And she like told me this story, and I was just like, I mean, that's pretty sick, you know? And then like my dad, when he died, even before he died, he like wrote me this like plaque. Like, he wrote a letter, but they made it into a plaque. And it kind of just talks about, it's very like similar to the life that I lived. He was always saying like, he's like, you're not the hole in the donut, you're the gold in the ghetto. Like, no matter what, like, keep shining yourself, keep polishing yourself. Like, you're gonna go through things, you're gonna feel out of place, but like, just polish yourself. Like, you know, like, and so there's just like things like that they were left in my life almost like for a reason. You get what I'm saying? So I do believe that like destiny exists, and I do believe that like a lot of it has to do with destiny. And to kind of like rewind on that a bit, a lot of the depression and stuff like that came from that feeling of like, my father was murdered, and I always have this as a thought that I have more than my past is always like, I'm going to be murdered too. You get what I'm saying? So it's like that like that's kind of what drew me to like just being mad depressed, because I was just like, damn, dude, he got murdered, and like, fuck, that's gonna happen to me too.
Like,
so.
you grew up thinking that you were gonna get murdered?
Yeah, I mean, like, I still feel it. You know what I mean? I just deal with life differently. It's like, if okay, like, I'm at a place right now where I'm like, I know that we're all gonna die one day. You get what I'm saying? It's just like, that's destiny, right? Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like, okay, well, what can I do, and how can I live to where like if and when that does happen, then like I'm straight. You know, like I have inner peace, and I'm like, and I'm good, and you know what I mean? And my spirit's gonna go wherever is good. Like, that's why I do my best to just like operate from a heart space, so that like when I go to bed at night, I'm not like dealing with mad demons and shit. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's just better to kind of like operate from that frequency, and like really just try to be like authentic to like who I am and what I feel.
Just being yourself as you walk around through life, and letting that be the things that attracts good things to you, as opposed to anything else, really.
Do you believe that like a part of that is you know, taking time to, because you've traveled alone a lot, you know, like internationally, and like you talk about meditation and like these practices that involve a lot of inner, you know what I mean, like going inside. So do you think that's important to like being on that path, pretty much, of like keeping a level head in terms of like spirituality and all that stuff?
I think it's super important. I mean, like, if there's one thing that I learned from Thailand, and like the family that took me in, they were pretty strict Buddhists, and like they really did a lot of things, like went to the temple like regularly, and you know, that type of stuff. And just kind of being around that and learning a little bit more about it, it kind of like opened my eyes a bit more to like this inner spiritual freedom. You get what I'm saying? And like I think that the journey of life, when we open our eyes and we wake up, we experience the external, but I feel like our entire lives are really happening internally. And when we wake up, it's like that's kind of what we're creating, either consciously or subconsciously. What's happening inside is what we're creating outside. So like, yeah, I think that kind of looking internally is definitely important, and like spending more time with oneself is like super important. Look at, like, I saw monks that like dedicated their lives to just like living in the temple, because they are just trying to reach this point of like just staying inside. You know, that's kind of what it's all about, is like just staying inside as much as possible. And I had nothing but like respect for that. I'm like, damn, like it must be like super cool in there. You know, like it must be super cool in there. Like when you really just dive in as deep as you can go. So
because Buddhism is the primary philosophy and like religion in Thailand, no?
And so it's like it's pretty equal. Like it's like half Muslim, half Buddhist.
Because I went there a few years ago and I just saw all the statues. I saw all the monks. I saw even in like Bangkok in the city streets, people practicing their faith and showing reverence, and
it's very heavy, like very very heavy. Yeah.
How much do you think that living in Thailand and the Buddhist culture that they have, and just observing their ways of life has how much of that do you think that you absorbed and implemented into your life?
Oh man, I absorbed a lot of it. So in my spiritual journey, what was kind of crazy is like as a kid, my mom was like mad Christian and my dad was Muslim. And like when I found that out at a certain age where I can kind of put two and two together, I'm like, well, wait, this kind of doesn't make sense. Right? Like, you know what I mean? Especially like on my dad's end, like, you mean you're with a Christian woman? Like, so that kind of had me like always in the middle, where it's like, what are you? I'm like, I really don't know, but like, there's got to be something, you know? So, let's say like from the age of like 10 on until I was like maybe 19, 20, I was just like, fuck all of that shit. Like, oh, none of that stuff makes sense to me. It's all bullshit. And then I got like heavily influenced by my Christian friends who were like, just genuinely good people, and I just love how they lived their lives, especially on the road. Like they played metal, like they were super cool dudes. They were still like angry as fuck, right? Like it was just like, it was super crazy, but like at the core of who they were, I thought like, you guys are good people and like I trust you with my life. So I kind of started asking them a lot more questions and like about their faith and their religion, and they were always open to having conversations. So I took my own journey of like Christianity, where like I started going to church and stuff, but even then I was just like, nah, this ain't it. Like it's not about like going to church every day and all this stuff. It's like, it doesn't match up, you know? So I kind of like, I went like nomad in a way where like, even like, I took my Bible and I still stayed like just on my own in my room, just like reading my Bible and like trying to make sense of everything and trying to just overall like see God in all of it, right? And then that kind of just led me on this like crazy journey of just like, where's God? You know what I mean? Like, where's this God that everybody talks about? And then so that always kept me like open-minded. So I practiced like Kundalini yoga and things like that, and I remember I was a camp counselor, and one of the things that they brought was like Tibetan monks. And then the Tibetan monks stayed at the camp with us for like 2 weeks. And they were just like super cool, super quiet. They had nothing to really say, didn't really laugh much. But what they did is like for 2 weeks, they had these like metal like sticks filled with sand. And these sticks, like, so they would like a ratchet, like, you know, and they made this crazy sand mandala that was like gigantic collectively, right? And then like every day, like twice a day, they would like kind of chant over it and like generate this like energy. And then at the end, they walked it over because it was like on a piece of wood, and they like walked it over, it like synchronized, and they dumped it into the river. So like all that work that they had just put in, they like dumped it into the river, and they made this huge like ceremony thing out of it. And that like opened my mind to a whole level of Buddhism, because we don't see that in America. You know what I mean? Like we don't really get to witness like true like Buddhist practices and cultures and stuff. We see it like in the city, especially like in Vegas or New York. I don't know if there's any like Buddhist temples here. Mm-hmm. So when I got to Thailand and started seeing that, and seeing like monks walking on the street and like hearing just like temple chants, because where I lived was like kind of close to a temple, and you can just hear them in the morning, like Namo Tassa Bhagavato, like, and I was just like, yo, and I remember like walking to the temple and just like looking, and like this is cool, this is peaceful, this is, you know what I mean? And I just remember, like, I probably looked stupid, but I just, like, sat down and I just, like, closed my eyes. And then I remember, like, actually I had 2 friends with me, and I sat down and I just, like, closed my eyes, and then, like, I, like, when it was all over, I, like, opened my eyes, and, like, they were gone. Like, they had left me. And I was like, how long was I there? Like an hour and a half, dude. Like, we were just like, we'll come back later, or you'll text us when you're done. So that was kind of, like, my introduction into, like, that kind of, like, spiritual realm, too. You know, I was just like, man, there's just something in all of it, in a way, from my experience, you know?
What do you think, what do you believe in terms of, like, a God then? I know you've taken a bit from everything,
Yeah.
and you seem like a very open-minded person, like accepting of the fact that everything has something to offer.
Yeah.
What do you think that you believe in terms of, let's say, an afterlife, or even just this conception of a higher power?
As far as a higher power, I definitely think that there is a force that is, like, I don't want to say necessarily, like, in control of everything, but it's, like, something that holds everything together. You get what I'm saying? So not necessarily, like, one man or one force that's just, like, controlling what we do and what we think, but I do think that there is something that's binding all of this together that we just can't escape. You know, like, there is something. And so, like, I think as far as just, like, planet Earth goes, and hearing stories of, like, Jesus and Buddha, and even, like, you know, seeing, like, paintings on the temple of, like, different beings and all of that stuff, I mean, I think that it's all real in a way. Like, who's to say that what the crazy guy that you see on the street, like, yelling stuff out, isn't real? You know what I mean? Like, what he's seeing, you know, just, like, just yelling at stuff. Who's to say that what he's going through isn't real? It's real to him.
Mm-hmm.
Just because we can't see it doesn't mean that it's not real. You know what I mean? Like, we see him reacting away, so it's got to be real. So, like, I think that, you know, like, things like Jesus and Buddha and stuff, like, those, like, real people, like, real stories. And, like, it might have happened, you know, in a place where, like, the world wasn't as populated, but, you know, the story of, like, that time and that era and what people were going through and how people perceived life, like, all that stuff was happening. And here we are, you know, a couple thousand years later, just kind of reading the leftovers, you know, diluted or not. I don't think that it takes away the fact that it's just, like, you know, it's a tall tale, because, like, we're so far from in our thinking, and in, like, with technology and with just, like, innovation and all these things, we're so far from it that it seems like it's like, oh yeah, it's a tall tale. But it's like, not too long ago, people were, like, riding around America, like, in wagons and, like, sending letters, you know, like, we don't see that happening anymore. But why do we say that that's real? You know, it's not, like, I still have a lot of questions, but, like, as far as an afterlife goes, I definitely think there's something, because, like, I've done DMT a couple of times, like, a handful of times. And, like, that was, like, that's kind of where I got it. Like, the first time I did it, I was, like, 19, and I saw this, like, crazy, like, golden aura. It was almost like a Buddha statue, you know what I'm saying? But there was really, like, there wasn't much form, but it looked like the form of, like, a person, and it was warm, like, radiating light, almost like the sun. But I remember, like, I was, like, floating towards it, and it's like, just let go, like, you're in good hands, just let go. You know what I mean? Just, like, just let go. And I remember seeing, like, just colors, and I was just in this place that I was like, yo, what the hell is this? Like, what is this? And I just was floating closer and closer and closer to this, like, this light, this warm thing. And as I was, like, letting go, I just, like, I kind of, like, merged with it like that. And then I just felt this, like, cleanse of my body. And I, like, started to come back to my senses. And I was like, wow, that was wild. But that also kind of was, like, the beginning of me, because I was, like, 18, 19. That was the beginning of me, like, starting to search for, like, something else, because it was the first time that I had, like, a legit spiritual experience.
Yeah, it was it's funny, because as you were explaining religion and your viewpoint on God, I was waiting to ask you, did you ever have any experiences on psychedelics? Because, you know, I've had a few myself, and I know exactly what you're talking about. And it goes back to like what you were saying earlier about like observing but not absorbing. You know what I mean? So it's interesting that all these religions exist and all these people are so devoted to these different things. And like I believe like Hinduism too has like connections to DMT, and those like gods and like images they portray are like, you know, they have connections to like psychedelics. So it's like really interesting. It's like you said, who's to say that's not real? If these people solely believe with all their heart and soul that that's, you know, real.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
And not all around the world is there one person dictating everything. There are places in the world where like people collectively are making decisions. So like that's kind of what opens my mind too, is like to a lot of these stories and beliefs and things that we hear, because I know for me growing up in America, my just perception of the world is like behind every like organization or group of people, there's like one man that's like, this is the rules, or whether it's brainwashing people or, you know, like cult leaders and stuff like that. Like only really in America do we kind of perceive things that way, or did I perceive things that way? But when I went to like Brazil, for instance, or even places like Thailand, I see like, no, these people are collectively like, I don't really see a leader. I don't really see a boss guy that's like, you know, bringing in all of the, you know, like all the people and like, I don't see that. I see like a group of people just collectively like working together. So yeah, I mean, I'm lost now.
I have to say, just hearing about all the influences you were able to take from your life experiences, it's honestly something that makes me feel like life is beautiful, because there's just infinite amount of resources in terms of just ideas and different aspects that you can view things from. Like, just like take, for example, Christianity, and then you take Buddhism. It's like two similar but also very different ways of viewing life. Mm-hmm. And from those, like, you can take pretty much the good of what you want, and you don't have to be stuck on like this one mindset. You can just be open-minded and like try out a little bit of skating, try out some graffiti, maybe try out some Muay Thai. Like, there's this idea that you have to be this like one thing, but you really don't have to be. And another thing too that I've been meaning to get to is like this idea that I have from all the people that I've been able to speak to on the show, that we've been able to speak to, of like a non-linear path. Like, it seems as if, like, I remember when I was like 18, I'm like, damn, my life is going to be this way, and this is the way my life's going to be, and this isn't what I want, but this is the way my life's going to be. There's no changing it. And realistically, like, it's not like that. There's so many people who, from when they were 18 or 19 to when they're 26, is totally different. And a lot of people like who listen to this show are in that phase of life, and they're probably like, they also like, we get messages and they like can't believe like the opportunities that are available if you really just put your heart and soul into something, and if you just like believe in yourself, which I have found that a lot of people who are into like graffiti, hardcore, even skating, like they may come from backgrounds where like they might really not think that they can achieve like more. And I wanted to read this quote, which is I took from two of your writings, and then speak on it a little. So it's this: I'd say at the height of my depression and downward spiral, I was 19. 19 is when everything started to hit me. People were going to college, people were getting jobs, and I was living in a one-bedroom apartment with my mom, my brother, my niece, my sister, struggling to make $750 rent every month. I had no idea what I wanted to be in life, or what I wanted to do, or what I could even do. Because at the time, 19 years old, 305 pounds, 2 packs of cigarettes a day, soda only. If someone had pills, I was like, oh, I'll take some, not even knowing what they are. Really just lost with no hope, and I didn't even care. I didn't care if I wake up today. I'm going to drink myself and hope I don't wake up tomorrow. If you connect to how I once felt, just know that you're not alone. More people have these struggles than you know. None of us are perfect, and I never will be, but I'll always live to be better, wiser, and stronger. Know what's possible if you decide to start taking control of your health, both mental and physical. In terms of like destiny, maybe being something, some people might think of destiny as something pre-written. Like, my life is pre-written before me, versus choice and like the choice to make healthy decisions. What do you think about like the ability to make choices versus like some preset plan, regardless of where you are in life?
The ability to make choices versus a preset plan. So I've never like really even thought of this, so I'm kind of going to answer it like freestyle how I feel it now, right? So like let's talk about like destiny and like preset choices, right? They kind of seem like they're the same thing, right? It's like destiny kind of means in a way that like things are already kind of like lined up. But I think just by how my life's gone and just by listening to the things that you wrote, it sounds more like destiny is just like, it's more of like who I am. And the things in life that are put in front of me are like, that's just like, that's not really mapped out. The only thing that maps out is like who I am and who I'm connected to, which is like my mother, my father, and my family. That's something that you can never escape, is like who you are, where you come from. That's nothing that we have control over, as like who we are. We don't have control of like our perception of life at an early age. Like when we're first born, we don't have control really. It's just kind of like we are born who we are. You know what I mean? Like black, white, gay, straight, like it doesn't matter. We didn't control that. That's out of our hands. That's destiny. Everything else in front of us like is kind of like it's there. So that's like the preset plans thing, the choices. I think that from what I've gathered from all of the like religious practices, or just like the different like theologies, is that it seems that there's a similar message of like we're infinite. Like our spirits and our souls and stuff they're infinite, right? And our choices are kind of like what determine where like our choices on earth are kind of where we, like the direction of like where we spend either a really long amount of time or the rest of our time. You get what I'm saying? Like in whatever afterlife there may be. So I think that like the freedom of choice, like, let me go back just so this makes more sense and how I actually like apply this. For this last fight, for instance, one of the things that really got me through was believing and seeing that I had already won and that I had already spoken and said what I wanted to say. And like I was in the locker room just like thanking God already. I was like, yo, thank you for this win. I'm so grateful. Thank you for the car ride that I'm about to have with my coach. Like just him and I in the car together celebrating this win. Like, thank you for both of my checks, win and show money. I'm so grateful, and I'm feeling these things as I'm saying them. I'm not like hoping like, please give me. No, I'm just like, whatever's out there, thank you. Like, this shit feels good. Like, thank you for letting me win. Thank you for letting me say who I am on the microphone. Thank you for letting me inspire people and really just like let some type of light shine off of me so that I can just do whatever it is that's good in the world. Thank you. I'm fucking appreciative. Just speaking how I speak, but thanking whatever's out there for whatever was already happening. And that's how the destiny works, because I already was appreciative of it before it even happened. And I and I feel like that's a big part of why I won the fight and why I was emotional and why I'm like, how everything's happening, how all the podcasts are blowing up, and how my DMs have never been so full in my entire life from people that are just wanting to reach out about real stuff and connect. It's not necessarily like about me, but about the stuff that I was already thankful for. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's why, like, when someone's like, yo, can you do my podcast? Like, yeah, let's do it. Because I'm like, I've already given thanks for this stuff. So like, now I'm in a place where I'm trying to catch up to like, what am I thankful for next? You know what I'm saying? So I feel like that's kind of the destiny. I can't change who I am, or like I had no control over who I am. and the situations that I was placed in, but I do have control over like the decisions and stuff moving forward. And I feel like if I start to take on this thing of like this belief of I'm infinite, I have this like this power in a sense, not necessarily like power to control, but this power to like go through obstacles and stuff. I think like that's kind of that's the space that I'm in right now in life, if that answers your question at all.
No, yeah, it definitely does. It's very powerful. Do you use like any like personal chanting or mantras or just self-talk before fights, or even just in general life when you wake up in the morning and you realize the situation that you're in? Do you use any of that from?
I've tried, like when I was in Thailand, I tried doing like mantras, and I actually like had my friend like, hey, can you like get me the mantras from the temple and like teach me like what they are, what they mean, things like that. And it was peaceful and it was really cool, and it was, I don't want to say fun, but it was like really like enjoyable to be able to like pursue that and try that. But it didn't really feel like me, because like it's not my language and things like that. So like mantras of other practices and from other countries and stuff, like I see it and I respect it, but I don't feel like the chanting and stuff necessarily works for me. But I'd say like in English, my mantra lately over the past 5 months has just been thank you. Thank you, God. That's it. Like I'm in the shower and I just like, I'll just remember, like I'm just like washing up and I'm just like, oh shit, I forgot to say thanks today, just to the universe. You get what I'm saying? Like, thank you. Because where I'm at, like I can get so lost in like thinking about other people, the people that are like a couple blocks down, or you get what I'm saying? Just the people that I don't necessarily see. So I'm like, where I'm at, like I just thank the universe every day. So thank you is really just my mantra to just outside, so that I can like at least show my gratitude for like the things that like the position that I'm in versus like the position that I was in. You know what I mean? And thank you for the future of like where I'm going to.
Where does your so like in the book Mind Over Muscle, Jigoro Kano, the founder of judo, he talks about like the 3 levels of judo, and the first one is like controlling other men with your martial ability. The second one is controlling yourself, and the first one is the easiest level, which is like controlling other men. The second one is controlling yourself, and the third one is using your abilities in judo to just benefit others and benefit society. And it's kind of what I think about when I think of you on your journey. I'm not even gonna say martial path. I just mean like your life path, and using your life not only to enjoy it, but also as a vehicle for literally helping other people. From what you say into the mic to even just some of your external projects that when I like looked into them, I'm like, oh snap, this is like all encompassing. You know what I mean? What is your greater aim, and or some of the things you wish to accomplish on the path that you're on?
I'd say like almost like short term, and something that I really have just always wanted to do is like have like a brand or like a storefront. And at this storefront is like people that would be attracted to this and go to this would be people that are very similar to me and my upbringings and interests. So like imagine a place where you could go and you could train, let's say like Muay Thai or Jiu-Jitsu. There's also like a place where you can like sit and dig through like, some records and sit down and have a coffee, like just a small little like coffee bar where you can have coffee and dig through records and listen to music while like across the room there's guys training jiu-jitsu. And then like also there like on the other corner there's like a small little like store with merch and like cool stuff. And then at nighttime when it shuts down, it could be like just like an event space for whatever, like poetry reading also there's got to be like a mini ramp in there too, right? So like, but just like a hub where like everything that's impacted my life kind of fits all together, and it's a welcoming space for me after school. I didn't have places to go. If we were going to go skate, we like skated in the street or like, you know, at other schools and stuff. But as a youth, if there was a place like that where I can go hang out, it would have saved me a lot of, you know what I mean? It would have saved me a lot of just like pain and and trouble and danger. and it probably would have like inspired me at an earlier age that, you know, I could do something else besides like go to work or go to college. And I knew that, like, you know, two of those things I was just like, I want to do something else and make money. And now that we live in a generation where like a lot of stuff is online and kids are starting to get so good with technology, I'd also like to have this space where like in the same space, be able to bring guests on, like bring you guys over to the spot and you guys set up and you kind of give like a 2-hour kind of like course on why you guys started your podcast and what that's brought to you and how you guys were able to start a podcast and you got X amount of subscribers and then you guys did a donation to the homeless and did all these jackets and fed, you know what I mean? And like, and this is what we look like and this is what we like. And like, we still did it and we're still like living in New York City, you know what I mean? Like, and showing people, especially like people in Vegas, you know, because that's where I'd like to have the storefront and eventually like expand them, but showing, you know what I mean, the youth, because I feel like that's the most important thing. The youth, weirdly, is the future. You know what I mean? Like the kids behind us are actually what, you know, where the future's headed. So like be able to do something like that so that like when the book is closed and my story is done, that it's like it's a good one and it can be passed out like Muhammad Ali. Mm-hmm. Like he's not my favorite because he's a fighter. He's my favorite because years later his story still inspires people. Mm-hmm. And like when you go back and look of him getting a Medal of Peace from the United Nations and like being the first black superhero to be like against Superman in a comic book, and you look back at his interviews on television and how like just everything that the dude did lived on. And just like out of respect for my parents and out of respect for myself, I think that would be a really cool way to like close the chapter on this life. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. It's like the people who use their platform for a broader and greater purpose that spans that, like it hits everything. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it really does make a difference in people's lives. There's so many people who really are just trying to be happy. That's pretty much what everyone's trying to do. Everyone's just trying to find some peace and happiness. Like even people who have insane like criminal backgrounds or people who are undergoing like problems with substance abuse, like they're in those situations because of things that they were brought up in. No one woke up and they were like, I want to be this. Yeah. Like I want to have a shitty life. And it's through just what, you know, they were born into almost, that they're in these things. And it's people who use their platform for a greater good it really does bring everyone up together. Like someone like you who's using their platform, like it's everyone's rising with your victory. There's a lot of other victories, which it just goes to show, because if people are messaging you, like they're not just like they're messaging you because they feel it, you know what I mean? Like they feel it inside, and I think it's super important, like someone who's into all that stuff that like is so relevant to New York City subculture as well as like our podcast and stuff. It's like people usually don't see people like that like winning. I'm putting in quotes for people who are listening. Like you usually see like most skaters end up like blowing it or something, unless they go pro, which is like few and far in between. Or like never like speak of graffiti writers. Like there's no money in that. Like you're thought of as, and you think of yourself as a loser. Yeah. And when you see that these people have actually so much insight and so much experience and so much to offer, and then when they do win, they bring it back and they give back, like that's the best thing, I think. That's what I love so much about Mike IRAK. Like, I'll tell you a little bit of story. Like, so when I started getting into graffiti, my homie, his name is Bucko, and he ran a crew called BC, and we went like Before Christ, bombing cities, whatever. It was like, it's Vegas graffiti, so it's like, it's not the same as New York, like not even close, and it's nowhere close to LA either, you know? Like, we had a handful of like writers that got respect, and that's because like they were in like heavy crews and they would take trucks out to LA and bomb LA. You know, they were holding it down. There was no way we were touching them, but we were like, you know, it was light, like compared to what the graffiti world like really is. But I remember when I was asking him about the Black Book and stuff,
and he started teaching me just like different like hand styles and showing me differences and people that he liked, and started hanging out with them, and we'd watch graph videos, and just I started to like really just try to take it all in. And then I remember the more I like started hanging out with them and practicing, they kept trying to like give me names. They're like, all right, yeah, like try to write this, and I'm like, eh. And then because I was heavy, we ended up settling on 5 tons. So I'd write 5 tons tons. And then like we'd go out and like catch spots, and I remember he's like, okay, fool, like you're in the crew now. And I'm like, all right, cool. So we'd start going out and painting, but and then this was around the time too where like the internet started picking up, like almost like the beginning of like Web 2.0, right? Like Sidekick phones, and like YouTube was like a new thing, so we were able to watch videos and search stuff. But at one of these stores, because there was one graffiti store in the mall, I think it was called Workman's, and they sold tips, and they sold like Krylon tees, and they sold, they just sold like graffiti merch and stuff. But they also sold cans. And we were like, there's no way that we were about to pay like $9 for a Montana can. Although they had the sickest colors, there was no way that we were going to pay for it. And we were also like struggling to buy paint and to get people to buy paint for us, because at the time we were buying paint, we didn't know shit. And then I remember just like one day, it was either like on a video we were watching or it was YouTube. But we came across, at Workman's, at the graffiti place, they had a Mass Appeal magazine, or they had a magazine and it had ear snot on it. And he's like, his tongue out. And I was just like,
with the gold teeth.
Yeah, I was like, he's black. I was like, he's black. What is this? So I started looking at it, learning more about stuff. And then, but like once I saw ear snot and I saw that he was black, because most of the time you don't see graffiti writers. And we started like looking up videos, and I saw like ear snot IRAK crew. We started looking at that, and I'm like, yo, IRAK crew is the sickest crew out there. I was like, they're from New York City, like they're sick as fuck. Like this dude's gay, but he's hard as fuck. He's black, like I fuck with him. Like he's my favorite writer. And then so like then we were all kind of inspired to just start racking. You know what I mean? Like so like IRAK crew, I was like, why pay for paint when we can rack it? And they were like, yeah. So we started like we would go ditch school and we'd go to the art supply store, and like I remember the first like when we were getting our feet wet, we'd go to like the art supply store and we'd just start racking Prismas, because those were the best markers for black books. So we'd start racking Prismas, and then like it was a rush, and then we went from like racking Prismas to racking paint, and then we went from racking paint to racking clothes. And once we started racking clothes, that was like a game changer, because now like we were able to really flex at school. Like we literally like leveled up over the summer. Like we came back the next year like, you have no idea, But like, so then like it went from, so we started thinking that we were harder, because like we rack our paint, we rack everything, and like we just had this idea that we were like, becoming real graffiti writers. But there was one night, so there was a night that we went out, and we went to go catch some freeway spots. And in Vegas, it's not that easy to catch freeway spots. Like, it's pretty desolate. If you're out late at night, the only people out late at night really is like cops. So like they sent, like there was a helicopter, it flashed on us. And like we ran, and like I'm out of shape, you know what I mean? Like I'm mad out of shape, dude. We ran, and like I remember hiding under a truck, and I was just like there for so long. And I just remember just my thoughts, like I'm just like, dude, I don't know if this is the life for me. Like I'm gassed, you know what I mean? I'm gassed out. I didn't even really run that far. And at the time too, I'm thinking like, fuck, I'm gonna go to jail, like if they find me. So I'm just like under this truck for a minute, just like breathing heavy, trying to catch my breath. And I'm just like, hey, I don't know if this is the life for me. And then that wasn't enough for me to give it up. But like after spending like almost an entire school year just like kind of ditching and just going to rack stuff, my mom was like, we're moving you to LA. Like you have like truancy notices and shit. Like you're hanging out with the wrong people. We're going to LA. Little did she know that's where I wanted to be. Like she didn't know I wanted to be in LA. So like, she moved me to LA, and my cousin's girlfriend, her brother, he was a graph writer, and he was actually in like I don't remember the crew because it was like so long ago, but their crew was legit in LA. Like they had like respect. And I remember when she introduced me to her brother, he wrote Tower B&B, shout out. They took me out. They're like, yeah, we're gonna go paint the LA River. And then I was like, okay, cool. But like, it was just not, like I said, it's not the lifestyle for me. It was like, I was like, damn, I don't think I'm hard enough for this. Like, really, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think it, like, I love it this much to where like I'm really willing to like to take on the lifestyle. So like, I've always had a respect for graph. I always will. I'll always find inspiration from it and all that stuff. But Mike, the whole reason behind that is like because of the impact that IRAK crew had on me. Linking with Mike, we linked over Instagram because I didn't know he had I didn't know he was a fight fan. Mm-hmm. But I liked his stuff because he like was dropping NFTs, and like he was IRAK crew, right? But like when we ended up linking online, he's like, yeah, I'm a fan, and what he's doing with his upbringing and like taking it to like NFTs and like VR graffiti, I love that. You know what I mean? He's kind of like setting that set, like there is a future in this. You know what I mean? Maybe there's not people like really making mad money off of it, but like the start of this, like VR graffiti, like making graffiti NFTs, even like just selling art. Like I know people don't necessarily want to like sell out, like graph artists don't want to necessarily sell out, but it's like dude, you can do what you love and like do something good with it. You know what I mean? So yeah,
what Mike's doing is awesome, and his stuff is very unique. Like the way he approaches like all the stuff he makes, even from his like Instagram stories, like they're always very unique. They're always stylistic and well put together. And in terms of like IRAK crew's influence, it's like crazy how much that crew has done directly and indirectly for New York. Like I'm kind of on the same boat. Like I grew up watching them nonstop. Mm-hmm. That's like a huge influence. Them and Jest and A-Life and KR, like that whole like crew of people really created a movement and really created like a certain style that drove so many people into lives of like serious passion and like obsession and like just like culture shifting stuff. And like what they did, like it's nothing short of insane.
And it's interesting how when you talk to these people, they don't realize in the moment, like at that time, that they're doing something that's changing or going to potentially change the lives of so many people, or like creating this like cultural phenomenon or whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. They're just living in the moment, you know what I mean? But now when you look back, it's a crazy like process, and like you realize that like a lot of them, you know, didn't really have that much money, or like nothing was really put in their hands, you know what I mean? It was just naturally, organically, you could say, just created, you know.
Yeah, in terms of like Earsnaw too, like I would watch his videos and like anything he said would be like biblical words to me. Like officially he'd be like, I'm definitely not paying for, and I'm like, all right, what's he not paying for? Gore-Tex exactly. Jackets, chicken cutlets. I'm never paying again.
Never.
And then, or he'd be like, oh yeah, like what was it, like throwies, pieces, and murals, but tagging is where it's at. And I'm like, dude, that's sick. You need to get me a fucking huge mop.
Huge mop. Streaker. And just like, I don't know, like there was always something like mesmerizing about like his tags and like his hand style. Just like
so good.
I see it like every time, you know. I'm just like,
when you see the graph now in New York, how do you feel? Like now it's literally
every time I see an Earsnaw tag, I still geek out, even though I've seen like 500 of them. But it's just like every day it's like I see it, I'm like, yeah, like I'll snap a photo, or you know what I mean. I just always like, it's really tight. It's really tight to be able to see stuff like that, and like even just like the big bat. And yeah, man, it's like I said, it's my life right now is like I'm living the life that, you know, like the 15 through 18-year-old was like on YouTube, like, oh, these guys are in New York City. Oh, like the A Life store, and like, you know, like things like that. I'm like, dude, I'm here. Like, here's an ear snot tag. You know, like I'm hanging with Mike IRAK. You know, like I'm painting with Mike IRAK, like on virtual reality, and like he's my friend, and he's teaching me about NFTs and just like meeting just like different creative people from like brands that I've always rocked, and just getting love from different brands, and just being a part of something that I was so heavily influenced by is just like, it's wild, man. It's really wild. But I'm so grateful because that kind of hole that I had in my heart as a teenager is now like it's filling up, and yeah, it's fucking sick.
That's beautiful, man. Do you plan on how long do you plan on living in New York for?
A long time. Yeah, me and my girl just bought a place in Brooklyn.
Sick.
Yeah, so like I've been here a year. My girl's been here like 5.5, 6 years. I think 6 years. But yeah, we just bought a place together in Brooklyn. So I probably won't be going anywhere for a minute.
Congrats, man.
Yeah, congrats,
Thanks,
man. Do you move around from like here to West Coast or Thailand still, or?
When the UFC tells me that I have a fight coming up, then like that's how I schedule my trip back to the West Coast. So like I got a little like small 1-bedroom apartment there that I literally just use for sleep when I'm in training camp. So like, yeah, once the UFC's like, hey, we have a fight offer for you, I make sure like I see what date it is, and then usually I will move back out to Vegas like at least 8 weeks before the fight date, and so I'll like live in Vegas for 8 weeks, and then after that I just come straight back to New York.
Why did you move here?
Mostly because my girl. So like when I was in Thailand, my girl had spent a lot of time there too, and that's kind of like what connected us. And so I came to LA for like this like business conference thing, and she ended up being there, and that's how we met. And then I was living in Thailand at the time. I was just here for that conference. So I went back to Thailand, and then she came out to visit me, like just to hang out, because her dad, like her family has like stuff there. So then the pandemic happened, and it happened there way before it happened here. Like 2019 December is when things started kind of like locking down out there. So we just kind of both chose to lock down there together, because yeah, like we just like, let's just stay in Thailand and like ride this out for as long as the pandemic's gonna happen. But it started, as it lengthened and it like a year came, it was just like so hard to get like papers from the embassy to stay longer, and so I knew that I had to move back, and she knew that she had to move back because she was like paying rent on a place and she wasn't even there. You know what I mean? So I was like, let's just go back to New York together. And that's kind of like, that was the decision where I was like, yeah, I'm going to move from Thailand to New York, because like I still want to stay like in this like adventure mode. I wasn't ready to go right back to Vegas, you know what I mean? Just like kind of go back to, I don't want to say my old life, but like just a very familiar life. So I chose New York.
I mean, it seems good. I feel like you're using it to like its full potential, and you're always busy. You're always like making stuff happen. What do you have planned next in terms of? I know you have like a bunch of creative projects that you're doing.
So like, I'm super excited about the movie. So I got an acting role in a movie, and the lead characters are me and Tretch from Naughty by Nature. It's a crime drama with a little twist of fighting and MMA, and also like Anderson Silva's in it and Rampage Jackson. There's just like mad MMA legends in the movie. So that comes out in April, like mid-April. So I'm super happy about that. The project's over, but I'm just happy that like that's gonna come out. But I'd say like the biggest project that I'm working on is my brand, Such. I have an idea right now because it's still in like the very beginning stages, but like what I'm trying to do now is like really build a community of people who want to connect with me kind of like outside of fighting. So like people who are like majority like fans of me or supporters. I want to be able to like, so I created a Discord, and then it's like I also created merch and like designing merch, and if they purchase something from the store, that's almost kind of like I'm like, okay, cool, here's a Discord link, like if you fuck with this, then like come hang out with us in Discord. So like in the Discord there's just like VR topics, there's like NFTs, crypto, like streetwear, there's just a bunch of different topics. So now it's like I'm in there kind of like talking about ideas and stuff. So I'm like trying to funnel my supporters and be like, yo, like if you fuck with me, just let's go over here. Let's stay, like kind of stay, I don't want to say like away from the UFC, but like I want to be able to connect with people and make more friends. You know, so like if I do want to throw an event or like a skate competition or something like that, like I have the community. I don't have to like blast it out to everybody. I can blast it out to the people who are like genuinely interested in it. You get what I'm saying? So like that's kind of the idea behind the brand too, is like the more I build it, then a lot of it, like a lot of the community and where a lot of the money and things are going to go is to be able to like just kind of create those like nostalgic events where like I can throw a skate, like host a skate competition and like choose like, you know, whatever skaters I want to like compete in it and like sponsor the event where like, you know, like an X Games type of thing or like, you know, just like some type of cool like event. And, you know, just like, I really just like the idea of like events, you know, whether it's like a poetry night or like maybe there's like I'm sponsoring an event where there's like, you know, Mike and ear snot, you know what I mean, like something, you know, just something where like the brand kind of was going to be able to support these nostalgic moments and make them like kind of come to life. So that's the biggest thing right now, besides you know, after the fight in my post-fight speech, I was talking about like wanting to tell my story. When I was living in Thailand, I started writing and like lightly, because I'm not like, I don't draw the best, but like I can draw some stuff. I started writing and drawing a graphic novel. So it's about a black superhero who it's a lot of my life story, but it's my life story animated. And like, so for instance, like I've been kind of like introverted my whole life, and so like my own, I guess, like personal demons, I've like characterized them into like real like enemies. And so like the dialogue that I've been writing between me and those like or between the main character and them is like my internal conflict. You get what I'm saying? And then his superpower is intuition. So like I'll give you like a small little like scene. So there's a scene where like he's in a place that looks very similar to Thailand. I don't know if I'm going to make it Thailand or not, but it will have like a Thai essence. So he's in a place and there's this big tree, and the tree is like super thick, and it's got these like big trees, almost like the tree in The Lion King in a way, right? But the tree in the story and that spot that he goes to represents my connection with my dad. So he goes under this tree to meditate because earlier in the story, he comes across a monk when he's like he gets like stranded in this jungle like place, Thailand. And a monk is the one who like sees him kind of like dying and like picks him up and nurtures him back to life in a way. And he starts to learn like just certain things like martial arts disciplines, but not actually martial arts. He starts to learn like discipline from this monk because he like in gratitude of like, you saved my life. And the monk's like, okay, like clean this and like lift this up and carry this. And so the monks taught him how to meditate. So there's a part where he goes to under this tree where he goes and he's just like chilling and he's like meditating. And so in this meditation, there's this like like liquidy, like blue figure. And so really quick, when I was in Thailand, they came up with a nickname for me, Super Champ. I'm like, oh, Super Champ. So like, that's the name of the character, Super Champ. Like his superpower, his like superhero name, Super Champ. So he's like meditating and there's like liquidy, like watery, like things like in front of him. And it's like Super Champ. And he's like, the fuck? And it's like, it's me. Like, I'm here. I'm here to help you. And he's like, help me with what? It's like I'm your power. Like, you have to trust in me. Trust me. Like let's bind together. And like together we'll get you back home. And like, you'll be able to like defeat these demons and like things like that. So there's a moment where he's like, okay. And after the meditation, he goes down back to the temple, and the monk is like, okay, it's time for your blessing, where he gives him a sakyan with the stick, like just like I have. Yeah, I got mine in the temple too. And when you get a sakyan, so the monk's giving him the sakyan, after they do it, they splash water on it and they bless it, right? So it ties into the liquidy blue figure. So like he goes and he's getting this blessing, and he's like still in this meditation. And then when the monk's done, he like splashes the water on it, and he like feels this thing, and then the monk goes and blows. And when it blows, like internally, this is all internal, right? It's like this water wave and it takes him over, and he's just like going through this crazy, like, you know, just wave, and he thinks he's dying, and then it gets super hot because water gets hot, and then it gets super cold, and he just goes through this crazy like transition, and then finally he like fucking wakes up, and his eyes are blue. And so that's where he embraced that moment that he had under the tree with his intuition, and that becomes his superpower. So then now when he goes and fights these these demons, it's very like intuitive. So he's still the same guy, just like how I was, kind of like shy, you know what I mean, kind of like shut down, depressed in a way. But when he's face to face with these demons, then the intuition kicks in, and he's like, you know, it's like powerful, and he can't really like control it. You get what I'm saying? And so like the reason why I wanted to kind of tell my story that way is because it can be animated, and like my dialogue doesn't have to, let's just be like through storybook or like through, you know, an inspirational like biography or something. Like I want it to be something, like I said, that's left behind, something I can have fun with, something that's still true to me and true to my story, but like animated. You know what I mean? And you know, if I have a fight, then I can take my notes and journal and use it to like where people who are fans of MMA will be able to kind of tell like that maybe the guy that I'm fighting kind of represents like one of the, you know what I mean? One of the things. So now knowing the backstory, you can like start collecting the comics and kind of see life through like my exaggerated, like imaginative lens. You get what I'm saying?
That's very powerful. That's amazing. I can't wait to see that. Like that is so sick.
So that's the idea that I have. And like I've pitched it once, but just like sometimes like
To a publisher?
not to a publisher. Like so I'm with an agency, and so like they kind of like reached out to some people to see if they wanted to make it happen, but I think I just released it a little bit like too prematurely because I'm not a writer. But I do want to be able to like partner with somebody who enjoys writing and who also has like an imagination, so that like we can put this together. And also just like that's a part of the reason why like I have the brand Such and like creating the Discord, because like I'm trying to connect with like artists and people who just have a passion for drawing, because I don't have dollars to just be throwing out like paying people like here's $1,000 for, you know, for a little bit of art. Like I don't have that yet. But I do have this like passion and this vision to like work on a project, because I'm not making money off of it either yet. You know, it's like it's a collective project. It's just coming from my brain and my heart, and it's just like something that I really want to make happen, because like
It honestly sounds really good.
Yeah, I was listening to you, or just watching.
I was
like
getting pretty hyped.
It was like a movie.
Yeah.
Like, I was picturing exact like that watery figure. I feel like I've seen it in some type of cartoons too, or something, and like it just all came together. It's like so sick, dude.
Yeah, and it like the kind of like underlying message in it is that like it's like there's a very like spiritual like underlying where it's like your superpower is within. You know what I mean? It's kind of like intuition. Like if you go inward and take your time to like kind of really fight your demons internally, take the time, like, you know what I mean? A lot of the times that is all you really need to get through life. It's not like more money or more power or whatever. It's kind of just like dealing with the stuff internally. So small side note too, like if it were to become like an animated series for one, I would at the end of every episode make like the meditations like interactive to where like the viewer knows that like at the end of every episode we meditate and we soak it in. You know what I mean? So it's like the last 5 minutes of the episode is the moment where like you watch it and you're like, okay, yeah, this is the time, and there's like nice like sounds and like, you know what I mean? Maybe like a narrator that's kind of helping you in this like guided meditation, talking about the lessons of that episode to where like when you're done watching it, you're like, fuck, that's a good episode. Like almost like church. You know, exactly. Like, you know what I'm saying? So like I'm going to watch an episode of Super Champ really quick and you go watch it and you're like, all right, bet, like I'm good for the day.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
it's powerful.
Like, yeah, it's encouraging, you know, like handling your internal issues and taking the outcome of overcoming your demons outward into the world.
Yeah, it's cool, man. You have so much stuff going on. I honestly like wish you the best. It seems like you have like full of passion for all of these things, and you have a good platform off of which to work on. So I just have to say, like, thank you so much for coming on the show and speaking. And I feel like I gained a lot, and I feel like anyone who listens to this will gain a lot from your story and your words, from literally everything you said. I just have to say thank you. And if you want to say anything else, if not, like I said, thank you.
No, whoever is interested in watching this and whoever subscribes to the Patreon to watch what you guys are doing and support you guys, just a big giant thank you. That's really it. Like, I don't have any just like words of motivation or anything. I just hope that, you know, whoever was interested in, for whatever reasons, I hope you got what you were looking for. And if you weren't even looking for this and you got something, like, thanks from all of us for listening and subscribing. Yeah.
Thank you, man.
Thank you, man.
Peace.
Peace.